everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ask an Author. Today we have a very special guest, a very good friend of mine, Katrina McKelvey. Welcome.
Hi.
It's so great to have you on our episodes because usually you're the one interviewing everyone else. So today we get to ask you some questions, which is very exciting.
It is a bit exciting. Hopefully they're not too hard.
There's a few tricky ones there. But first of all, before we get into that, can you tell the kids, how did you become an author?
Well, I find that a really interesting question because a lot of people think authors have been writing all their life, but I actually haven't. I didn't like writing growing up and always wanted to be a primary school teacher. And so that's where I started all the way through school, wanted to be a primary teacher, and that was my complete focus, and went to university, did all of that, taught for 10 years until I wanted to have my own children, and then stopped teaching altogether. I had a bit of a break, stayed at home with my kids, and absolutely loved the years of watching my children turn into babies and toddlers, and that was just adorable time. And it's through that I rediscovered picture books, actually, by taking my children to the public library. And then I was looking at some of the books thinking, maybe I could do a little bit better than this, because some of the books were dreadful, but they were beautiful. There were so many beautiful books as well. And that's where I learned a lot about the New South Wales Premier's Reading Challenge, because I found that spot in the library and I was going through all those picture books and thought it's time for a career change, and went from there. So started to learn the craft of writing for children.
That's amazing. And we've got so many aspiring authors who've sent in questions for you. So this is my very special book where I write down all of the questions, and you've got a whole page of questions that kids have sent in. So first of all, we've got a question from Emma. She wants to know, did you like books as a kid?
Now, Emma, funny you should say that. When I was growing up, libraries were a place where you had to be very, very quiet. Very quiet. You couldn't play games, and you didn't have beautiful, fun story times where librarians dressed up. And so I don't remember being encouraged to read a lot as a child, especially kinder, year 1, year 2, and going to the library. You'd borrow these dusty old books in this dark room, and it wasn't a fun place to be. And so I wasn't a big reader growing up at all. I remember my mum had all her children's books from when she was a child in a bookshelf in our hallway, and they were the only books really we had around us. So I didn't have my own sort of set of books. So I didn't do a lot of reading growing up, and at high school, I just read the stories we were studying in class. So I wasn't a big reader. Really didn't discover, how much I enjoyed books until I was teaching, actually. And that's when I discovered Andy Griffiths, long before anybody else had. And so no, I didn't like books growing up, but love them now.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so good to know that the kids, it doesn't matter if they don't love it right now. Maybe it's something they might grow to love as they get older.
I hope so, because books are so beautifully made now compared to our childhood. There's so much care taken into the designer books now, pictures and colours and beautiful covers, that really there's no excuse for children not to want to jump into books these days.
They're just gorgeous. You just have to love them. So James wants to know, how do you get ideas for your books?
Oh, good question, James. They are all around us, everywhere. I say to people, you have to stop, and you have to look, and you have to listen, and you have to open your heart and gather them as they appear. And they come in all sorts of funny places, and they're everywhere. So you have to be ready to catch them as soon as you get an idea. The idea for my first picture book, Dandelions, just came from my daughter running out of my hand one day on the way to preschool and picking a dandelion puffball out of a gutter, a crack in the gutter. So, just a simple little activity like that. My current book coming out, Chasing Rainbows, that came from a discovery related to my daughter's kindergarten speech about rainbows. And as we were researching it together, I learned a new fact about rainbows. I won't say what it is today because that's the ending of the book.
Okay.
But so I discovered a new fact. So I went, oh, there's an idea for a story. So they're everywhere. So open your eyes, open your ears, open your heart.
Love that. I love that. And I can't wait to read your new book to find out what's your new
the ending.
I didn't know. I know everything about rainbows. I can't wait.
But do you? Do you?
Think I do. Now I don't think I do. Now you've put that out in my mind. I just can't wait till your book comes out. Abby has got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you laugh?
Do you know what? Was that question what makes me laugh?
Yes.
Yes, sorry, because the internet, damn internet was playing up. What makes me laugh? My puppy dog makes me laugh. Her name's Ivy. She's 2 and she does some funny things. You know when dogs do zoomies? I don't know what other people call them, but we call them zoomies. And when they get all that energy they have to burn very, very quickly.
Yes.
And they go run.
Oh, what sort of dog is she?
She's a Cocker Spaniel. If she's sitting at the other end of the room, so if she wakes up, I'll bring her over and I'll let her say hello.
I'll wake her up. She's obviously very tired from Zooming.
Yes. So watching her do her zoomies make me laugh a lot. My son makes me laugh. He's 14, and the other day he loves watching YouTube and little YouTube clips, and the other day he saw a practical joke, and I won't say what it is in case anybody has this done to them, but it's involving tomato sauce and salt, and that's all I'm going to say. And he tried this practical joke the other day on my husband, and I lost it because my husband fell for it, and I rolled around roaring with laughter because we should have been able to predict that it was going to be a practical joke in the first place, but my son just played it out so well that we were completely absorbed by this thing. He made it look like it was a new science experiment, and it was a practical joke. It got a lot of it.
Have to look that up. That sounds awesome.
Yes, tomato salt and tomato sauce and salt.
Okay.
Science experiment.
And my Google that.
Yes, Google it. And it just, little things, and it's terrible that I'm going to say this, but when you see somebody like trip over and they fall over, like that makes me laugh. But only until I make sure they're okay, then I'll laugh.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm allowed to say that's funny, because it's usually me who does the falling over.
Yes. If it's not you, it's me. So
And Michelle, don't you have to laugh it off? You're so embarrassed. You're so worried who's seen it.
You have to laugh at yourselves.
Yes. Anyway, lots of things make me laugh.
Make you laugh. That's great. Because laughter makes the world go round, doesn't it?
Oh, and it just keeps you healthy, doesn't it? Yeah.
Healthy and happy. And I love the tips for laughter that you've given us as well. So prank your dad. That's laughter. Let your dog do zoomies and set trip traps for people.
Yep.
You're a bit down to make someone fall over. And
or even yourself. Laugh when you fell over yourself. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. I've got a question from Harper here. Mm-hmm. Harper wants to know, do you have any hobbies?
Oh, isn't that a great question? Because I do more than write. I love shopping. I love going shopping. I love going to cafes, and I love drinking tea brewed in a teapot on real leaves, not tea bags. We don't do tea bags here. And just hopping around all the different cafes in my local area. I live in Newcastle in New South Wales, and we have beautiful cafes here. So I love hopping around and finding new cafes and trying their tea. And I'm very disappointed when I lift the lid up on the pot and there's a tea bag in the pot, and I never go back. Never go back.
Have you ever had your tea leaves read before?
Oh, that's another great question. Not recently, but my grandmother used to read them before she passed. Yeah, so when we were little kids, and that's who taught me how to drink tea and how to brew the pot and how long pause and short pause and all those types of things. And now I have a collection of cups and saucers, like old china, and I got, the kitchen was really recently renovated, and I had to have a display cabinet for all my beautiful cups and saucers, all linked from her. And she used to show us how you just leave a little bit of water and you used to swirl the cup and you had to turn it upside down. And then I vaguely remember something about even turning the cup before you then lifted the cup up. Yeah, and then you had to read, read what was on there. And then sometimes she'd even read the saucer and could even sometimes see what was happening in the saucer. Yeah, so I just wish she was around so I could ask her more about that and what's that all about and where did she learn it. And yeah, so talk to your grandparents, boys and girls, because you don't want all that knowledge lost.
Right.
Yeah, so drinking tea. Well, I love puzzles. I'm a bit of a Sudoku buff, so love Sudoku. I love maths, anything to do with numbers, love it. And jigsaw puzzles.
Yes.
So when everyone was locked down in COVID, with COVID restrictions, I just went to the cupboard and pulled all the jigsaw puzzles out because I had them all ready to go. And I haven't had time to do them sort of since I've had the kids. So it was great to clear the dining table out and spread all these jigsaw puzzles out and eat, somewhere else in the house because the jigsaw puzzles took over the dining room.
So did they help you? Did they?
Yeah, the kids. Yes, my daughter and I would choose puzzles together and we'd do them together. My husband had nothing to do with it. And my son, even my 14-year-old son, would snuggle in sometimes and lean over my shoulder and he'd get involved as well. So, and then my mother-in-law, my mother, when we crossed over, only a couple of times, as you know, they weren't allowed to, but when you could mix together, we'd swap jigsaw puzzles between each other. So, yeah, so that's a few of my hobbies.
That's amazing. How do you find time to do all of that stuff and write all your amazing books at the same time?
I don't know. And run around after children every day with all their sport, groceries. I don't know. You just fit it in. You just do it. Don't
because
sleep.
we love it. We love it. Now, Liam would like to know, have you travelled anywhere interesting?
Ooh, I haven't done as much travel as I wished I'd had by now. So I have big travel plans coming once we can sort of leave the Europe. I haven't done a lot of travel around Asia either. Most of my travel I have done up and down the east coast of Australia. I have visited Tasmania and I plan to go back to Tasmania very soon. I have been to Perth. I love Perth, and I've been all the way up to along our east coast. I've been from Melbourne all the way up to Port Douglas. So I love all of that. Haven't been to Northern Territory. Oh, and I've been to Adelaide. Loved Adelaide many years ago. Done the Great Ocean Road and all around there as well. Out of the country, I have been to New Zealand. New Zealand was the first country I went to when I left the country. And as a kid, didn't do a lot of traveling. Mum and Dad work long hours. So the first time I ever left the country was honeymoon. And same with to go overseas, but we had to go to an English-speaking country. Because we didn't want to do airports for the first time, international travel, get on aeroplanes as well as land in a country that didn't speak English. No. Yes. And I've done lots of America, actually. I've been to America twice. So I've done lots of LA, Disneyland, Florida, New York. Was in New Orleans before Hurricane Katrina came and devastated New Orleans. So that wasn't me, by the way. That was a storm. Yeah. Been to Dallas and saw where JFK was assassinated. That was eerie and fascinating all at the same time. Been to Memphis and all around there. Saw Elvis's house where he grew up and saw where all the black music all is part of the culture in that part of America. Yeah, so done lots of Northern America and yeah.
Wow, that's so great. Have you got a favourite
place? New Zealand. I'd go back to New Zealand in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I want to go to Hobbiton. I haven't been there before.
Oh, yes, that's around Wellington where all that was filmed. Yeah, and we did some jet boat riding near Queenstown and also near Wellington. Oh, no, not near Wellington. Some jet boating around Queenstown. And I think they were pointing out, from memory, some of the places where they did some of the filming for
I would
those
love
movies.
that. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely on my bucket list. All right, Raylene wants to know, do you have a favourite book character?
Yes. Now, I love so many picture books that I found it really hard to pick one, but I did grab a series of books, these ones by Nick Bland, and I'm sure a lot of kids will be familiar with these. This bear, he's a funny bear, but he's not in this one. He's cranky here. And then what else does he do? He gets itchy. Oh, these are all done by Nick Bland. He's so clever, Michelle, as you know. He does the pictures and he wrote the story, and it rhymes.
Oh my goodness, he's like a unicorn.
I know.
Oh.
So Brave Bear, Hungry Bear, and it's the same bear each time, Noisy Bear and Sleepy Bear. So yes, love Nick Bland.
Love. Yes.
So he's one of my favourite. I have many more.
Yeah. And I know as authors, we're not allowed to say if we have a favourite book, because that would be like saying if we have a favourite child. But is there like a go-to book that you seem to read over and over and over again?
No. It depends.
Different?
Yeah, they're different. I grab and read different picture books at different times based on what I'm writing at the time. So if I want to write in rhyme, I will go to a Nick Bland book because he does rhyming so beautifully.
Yep.
If I want something more beautiful, I'll have a look at books by Libby Gleason. If I want a book that has lots of action in it and the characters are doing lots of, I want to use lots of verbs, I'll go to a Stephen Michael King book. I love Stephen Michael King's writing style, even though I know a lot of people know him for his illustration style. There's so many. I don't want to name any more names because I'll get in trouble.
It's a bit mean asking an author that, isn't it? Because, technically we're sworn to secrecy. We're not allowed to say, because we'd just make all the other books jealous. So we can't do that.
And also too, Michelle, we know most of them. We've been friends with most of them for a long time, so we don't want to upset anybody.
That's right, because it's not just the book, it's the author and the illustrator as well. So
that's right.
You can't, yes. Georgia wants to know, if you had one wish, what would you wish for?
I didn't have to think too hard about this question, and my wish would be for everybody to just live a life of kindness. That's all I want. Kindness. And that's what I teach my kids. And they come home and they talk about their relationships with their friends and something's happened during the day, and I just go, were they kind? Were you kind? Where's the kindness? And so that's what I just want. World leaders and people of every race, every colour, every religion, every age, every gender, just to be kind. That's all I want. Kindness.
I love that. And Maddie wants to know, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, I think I answered this question earlier.
Teacher. You did. Yeah, teacher.
Yep.
And you did.
Yeah, I did. But there were a few other little things along the way I also wanted to be. I always wanted to also be a stage manager behind the scenes of television production.
Wow.
And yes, and I dreamed of being a racing car driver. I reckon I would have been pretty good at that.
What? That would be awesome.
and
I'm sure
and drummer.
And a drummer.
No, not with the children in the car. You're in a drummer. And my children, my daughter in particular, she's right into music. She does singing lessons and keyboard and what have you. And my husband actually offered recently for me to have drumming lessons, but I just went, I don't know.
I can feel a Partridge Family type band coming on here. I can see you on the drums. No? Diversifying your creativity. Creative people are creative in lots of different areas of their life. I'd
Yeah,
take them up on that offer.
yeah. Yeah, but who wants to see someone like me drumming? I don't know. So what would I do with it? Like,
I don't know, but it's
oh,
let's call it research. Everything
yeah,
that we do as an author is research.
that's
So
right.
maybe you could write a drummer in one of your books, or write a book about race cars, and then you have to do it as research.
Yeah, or I could even do a character that can drive a really fast racing car and drum at the same time. See, new character.
New character. See, it's that brain.
Yeah.
Gotta look things.
Mm.
So what's the best part about what you do?
I love hearing from the kids who have read my book, and I love hearing their questions or their comments or the way that they have reacted to the story, because everyone's going to react to each story differently based on their own experiences or who they are. And yeah, it's the kids. So when you get that little email from somebody saying, oh, we really loved your book, or beautiful book review that was actually written by a child, or they come and grab you in a school visit and say, oh, you know that book you wrote, I love it, it's my favorite book. You're just like, oh,
Yes.
that's why I do it. That's why I do it. Especially when I went into teaching, because I just adore children. And when I changed careers from being a teacher and then went into writing, it was all so I could be with children, not just my own. And so that's it. It's the kids. It's the kids.
That's awesome. And what advice would you have for those kids watching who would like to be an author when they grow up?
Read any book and every book, because the more types of books you read, the more you then can work out what type of writing you would like to pursue if you want to do that when you're older. So if you're reading all sorts of different types of stories, you'll eventually work out what ones suit your taste, and then you'll be able to go from there. And I think it's really important to know, not just read what you think you like, read what you think you don't like, and prove to yourself that you don't like it, and maybe work out why. And that then will make sure that you are heading in the right direction with your writing and your reading, and and go from there. But don't always think you just have to write one type of writing either. You can do poetry as well as write your narrative stories, or write a non-fiction text if you're interested in a particular topic. So you don't have to think you only have to do one type of writing. So yes, so that's my advice. Read.
That is the best advice. That's amazing. So thank you so much. If kids have got other questions that haven't been answered today, how can they get in contact with you and ask you some more questions?
You can email me, which is author@katrinamckelvey.com. And you can Google me and you'll find all my social media. So you're most welcome to private message me via my socials as well. Also, my website has a contact page. So you're most welcome to fill out the form on the page there. And I promise you it'll be me responding, and I will respond to any messages that come my way.
That is so amazing. Thank you so much. And I just want to thank you on behalf of all the kids for just being so inspirational and motivational today, and showing them that if they love books, then they can be an author just like you. So thank you so much for being on our show today. And I would love to get you back on another episode. If we can get some more kids sending in some more questions, would you like to come back on the show and answer some more?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, good. So if you've got some questions, make sure you contact Katrina and let her know, and we will do another session, and maybe next time we might ask some even curlier questions. Let's see how brave you are. But
challenge me.
Challenge. Let's do that. Because it was so great to have you, and you're always so awesome and so honest and so great about giving the kids lots of information and a little window into what it's like to be an author. So thank you so much, and we look forward to having you again on another episode of Ask an Author. Bye.
Bye.